Next, we're going to preview Copa America. Lizzie Bano joins us. We've got Argentina against Canada coming up. Hello, Lizzie. How are you?
Hello.
Hello. Happy to be here and get the Copa ball rolling.
Yeah,
you're gonna have to sing, on this show.
Speak to us in a foreign language as well. So obviously so much talk about the Euros, and it's kind of crept up on a lot of people over here in Europe. Janusz, obviously in Poland right now. I'm in Germany, back in the United States, back in Central and South America. What's the kind of feeling like now that Copa America is finally here, and we'll have our watch along later on ESPN FC Live?
I mean, it's definitely interesting. Personally, I've been feeling a little let down by Atlanta. I got here on Saturday, and slowly the fans have creeped in. Argentina is slowly taking over the streets of downtown, especially near the Argentina hotel. But in terms of activations, nothing yet from CONMEBOL or US Soccer or anything at all. Just one small Copa America sign near Mercedes-Benz Stadium.
Is it the 285 or the 295 that's the ring road around Atlanta? And it takes forever to get on and off it. But just getting around Atlanta, you haven't been there too long, but how do you think those fans that attend are going to be able to experience the city and enjoy the game?
Honestly, I think quite well. Everything in terms of like the stadium and downtown seems to be quite close. We've been walking everywhere. It's about a 9-minute walk from the team's hotel, Argentina, the team's hotel to the stadium. So fans are gathering around Olympic Park, their kind of hotel, taking over the streets. I think they'll be able to live it quite well. And as for the 4 Canada national team fans that I've seen, I'm sure they'll enjoy it.
I think it's only right that I chuck a grenade in now for LME and Janusz. Here's the first grenade. The United States would be better off with Jesse Marsch as coach than Gregg Berhalter. Janusz.
Ooh. No, I'm going to give Berhalter the benefit of the doubt for this tournament. Okay. Because I think you've heard me on ESPN FC and on our shows say that this is the moment of truth. I mean, it's 2 years to the big tournament. I think there's some question marks, obviously, about him, the way he was there with the team, in the first time, although I think the showing in Qatar was much, much better than anybody anticipated, at least in the way that U.S. team played. Then we all know he had some issues with the team and players and friends. I wouldn't have, as you know, re-sign him, if you will. I would be looking for a different coach because it was a good moment. I think this team needs to go to that next level. And I'm not saying that Gregg is not going to ever achieve that, but I think it's risky since the World Cup is here. And we have arguably, the most talented team in history. So, but let's see here. This is a big test. This is a real tournament. This is Copa America. We all know what teams from South America, I mean, not just how good they are, but how tournament ready they are because, they're qualifying, as we know, 10 teams. For me, it's the toughest in the world. And, you and I live or are from Europe. So give him benefit of the doubt. We'll see what he does in this tournament. It's positive. He continues. If it's not, they really have to look at it. I just don't know if Jesse at this moment is the right guy, though, anyway. So I say no.
LME. Is Jesse Marsch, the Canada coach, Canada, goodness me, the Canada coach preparing for this game against Argentina? Is Jesse Marsch a better coach than Gregg Berhalter? If you were American, who would you want?
I would want Jesse Marsch. I'm going to be very simple about that. I think Gregg Berhalter shouldn't have returned in the first place. I think his time was up, regardless of what happened off the field. The United States men's national team, to me, for a long time, has needed to not just find an identity, but a consistent one. And I understand that they're a young generation, but they have so many players now, specifically the likes of Christian Pulisic and others who are not just playing in Europe, but playing key positions in good, big European teams. So they need a manager, I think, that should have taken him to the next level. And yes, obviously, I wish Gregg Berhalter all the best. I know him personally. I think he's a great man, but I think that it should have been a new manager to lead the way. As Janusz said, Copa America, by the way, is entering a very important time right now. because for the first time in more than 20 years, it's going to host the World Cup champion. And the hierarchy in CONMEBOL is changing. It's not just about Brazil anymore. In fact, they're not doing that well in World Cup qualifiers. You got the likes of Colombia and Uruguay and even Venezuela as well. This is a very strong South American contingent.
Vamos, vino tinto.
That's right. They're doing wonderfully. I'm in Miami right now, and the Venezuelan energy right here is really optimistic. Obviously, we'll talk about that with Lizzie in a second. But in terms of the United States men's national team, at the very least, whether it's Jesse Marsch or not, I really think the U.S. should have just gone with a blank slate and started all over again and see, let's prepare ourselves and see how we test ourselves against the very, very best. Now, granted, after that Colombia destruction, they played much better against Brazil. So there's still some things definitely that you can look at in terms of optimism, but I remain with many questions for the USMNT. I don't think the Following Balogun project right now is showing to be the case, the answer. They're still looking for a clinical number 9. So there's a lot to discuss there. But Lizzie, I want to ask you something because you report heavily on Argentina, the World Cup champions. You're in Atlanta. They're hosting Canada, as Mark Donaldson said. Jesse Marsch is Canada. I want to focus on the Argentinian national camp because they're going for their 3rd straight major international title. They're looking to defend Copa America. And I have to begin here. Lionel Messi, how is he feeling? How is he looking? How is the team feeling around him? Because there are obviously many question marks about, is this it? Is this his final major tournament? And how do they look? Because they are obviously the favorites, but how do they look as they begin to open Copa America against Canada? What are you thinking in terms of Argentina as they begin this 48th edition of Copa America?
Yeah, they look great. In every training, they seem to be, as a team, really, really united, always laughing, always enjoying. But it translates really well. And we saw in the friendly, especially against Guatemala, the way they can come together in the midfield and just create in the offense. That energy and synergy that they manage so well on the field is translated to goals. In terms of Leo, and Lionel Scaloni kind of addressed that yesterday in the pre-match conference, he's feeling great, but the team is not necessarily thinking about whether or not it's the last dance, though there definitely seems to be notes of it. Obviously, Di Maria announced retirement after this tournament, so the questions tend to be heavily answered on him, but more so, I think the team is focusing, as he said, on enjoying this tournament, winning, obviously, but I don't think they necessarily feel the pressure. I think they're coming in with a certain level of confidence and not the same pressure they felt, obviously, prior because they hadn't won this tournament. So I think
You know what I think they need to do? Because you've mentioned that you don't see any fans or anybody. They need to send Lionel Messi to a grocery store. Remember in Miami, whatever it was?
Publix.
Not in comparison to Publix, though.
Tell him to go for a walk around, and you're gonna see fans everywhere from every country, I'm sure. So there it is. Work on that. You never know. It may work.
Asked you earlier for questions if you're watching along, dipping in and dipping out. We'll lose Janusz shortly. He's with us for this first half. It's goalless approaching the end of Slovenia against Serbia. But one of the questions we've just received, Lizzie, you can take this, then Janusz with the follow-up. Rodrigo de Paul epitomizes Argentina and how much they love to play for Lionel Messi. Does that play a role into how they play, Lizzie?
I think it's definitely part of it. I think something that's so unique about this team is the camaraderie that they've managed through the experiences. And we saw it in the World Cup where it was the Argentinian national team versus everybody. And that certainly seemed to unite them. And I've seen Messi very carefully during Inter-Miami training and during Argentina national team training. And you could see his level of comfort while with his national team. And that obviously is inspired through the ball, his friends, and the camaraderie that they've managed. And again, as I mentioned, it translates so well on the field when you have players that are so connected on and off the field.
Yeah. By the way, this is a great question, it really is, because I often talk about it, the difference between teams and you know, these guys are from the streets, the toughness and character, right? I mean, there's obviously quality, but you know, you've mentioned Rodrigo de Paul. What about McAllister, right? I mean, we've seen him in Liverpool. I mean, even Enzo Fernandez, who's had an off season, right? he's somehow protected and still tough enough, right? So if you go through the lines and you look at somebody like Otamendi, you look at him, you think of him at his stage of his career, but my goodness, right? I mean, toughness and quality. Lisandro Martinez, another one. I think when you look at that team and you look at other teams and ask yourself the question, why can't they go past that certain step? It's just that, right? Because at these games, you know, I was going to use a tougher and bad word, but you need starts with a P. You need 11 of them at certain stages, because it's a long tournament, and quality itself is not enough. Somebody said my stream, I have to leave. No, I'm just kidding.
If you'd said the word, you would have been kicked out. So.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But YouTube, you can at least say letters, right? But I hope that question was perfect, because Rodrigo de Paul is superb.
Yeah,
talk to me.
Yeah, I want to go back to that question for a second, because the question was about, you know, how much also they love to play for Messi, which obviously Rodrigo de Paul answers that. There's something very important that everybody needs to know as we look ahead to Copa America, something that was already known when they won the World Cup in Qatar, is that the moment Lionel Scaloni came into this national team, one of his biggest responsibilities was to eradicate Messi dependencia. Right? This idea that the team depends so much on Lionel Messi that when things don't go their way, then it's all over. We saw it at the Centenario in 2016, of course, when Messi himself gave up the national team. It took a massive, you know, national social media campaign for him to come back, of course. But when Lionel Scaloni came into this national team, somebody who knew the youth system all the way from the get-go into the under-15s, under-19s, under-21s, and he took over the senior team, he wanted to make sure that now this was a team that didn't rely on Messi, but played with him, that won with him, that competed with him. So yes, Rodrigo de Paul is correct. Like, they love him. If you watched the documentary on the World Cup run with Messi in Argentina, Angel Di Maria, one of his best friends, talks about this very point, how much they love. They just want to win it for him. Emiliano Dibu Martinez, of course, continuously talked about that. But it's also now about an Argentinian team that plays with him, competes with him. Julian Alvarez, of course, is a major component. We've got Valentin Carboni, who I want everybody to really pay attention to for this team, because he's going to be a really exciting player for them. Even from Nahuel Molina to all this team now is not relying on Messi as much as they used to. In fact, they're now playing together. So that's a really big component. But